Hey, what's up guys, it's Nick2. I imagine most of you aren't familiar with me. That's because I've never actually made WoW content before. I've made a lot of other guide type content for a few other games that I was heavily involved in. I'm in a pretty competitive raiding guild at the moment in WoW, so I thought that it would be fun to start making some WoW content and making some guide videos that could help people. So if you like the video, please make sure to drop a like, as that helps me gain traction a lot, and enjoy the video. So today we're going to be going over what is the most efficient way to level an alt character in Shadowlands from level 50 to 60. I would like to say that it is possible that there's some exploit that I'm currently unaware of, or a potentially faster method that has yet to be discovered, but so far this is the fastest method that I or anyone else that I know of has come across. So let's get right into it. The leveling model for alts is a bit different in Shadowlands than it has been in previous expansions. In case you weren't already aware, once you've done the full campaign on at least one character and you've already gotten to level 60, you now have the option to level an alt character by either doing the entirety of the campaign storyline, just like you were required to with your main character, or you can pick the alternative new option called Threads of Fate. You'll get this prompt on screen to pick between the two after completing the intro to the Maw questline, and as you can see here, the Threads of Fate option is going to immediately grant you access to your Covenant and lets you level it by doing pretty much whatever it is that you want, namely just world quests, dungeons, side quests, bonus objectives, etc. This option is pretty much going to treat you as if you're level 60, but it doesn't yet give you full access to your Covenant campaign questline. It does, however, disable the ability to do any of the main campaign quests. This decision is final, so picking the right option here is pretty important. Many people's, just like myself's, initial response to seeing this prompt is with the question of which option is actually going to be faster. To put it into perspective, it took me roughly 9 to 10 hours leveling my main character by doing the main campaign. This is, however, with all of the lag and other issues that were present on launch day, quests not turning in, all that nonsense. And also with the caveat that I was leveling with 2 IRL friends, which are relatively new to the game, so that could speed me up and slow me down in certain instances. If I were to level solo with no issues, I'd imagine it would have taken me roughly 8 to 9 hours, and I'd bet that's where most people fall, maybe in the 10-hour range. Leveling with the new Threads of Fate option for the very first time on my Windwalker monk, with about 30 to 45 minutes of me being AFK, waiting for friends to come back, bunch of inefficiencies here and there throughout the leveling process, and simply just not fully optimizing everything that I could have, given that it was my first time. It took me 5 hours and 30 minutes slash played to get from level 50 to 60. If I were to do everything that I'm about to list and I were to be perfectly efficient, I think that you could pretty easily get from 50 to 60 in 4 hours played, but that is a pretty well optimized version of the leveling, and I don't think most people are going to get it that fast. I think most people could get about where I was, 5 hours and 30 minutes to 6 hours. With that being said, it's safe to say that it is obviously significantly faster to level with the new Threads of Fate option selected. The question now becomes, what do you actually do to level that quickly, and what is the most efficient thing to do? First off, for any form of leveling, I'd highly recommend picking up a few inexpensive things to help you go a little bit faster. These are not mandatory by any means, but it helps here and there. I definitely, even if you're going to be leveling up your first character with the main campaign, this is hugely beneficial there as well. What I'd recommend is a couple of movement speed gems. You can put in a 5% and a 3% one. I'd recommend getting some gun shoes for zooming across the map. These are actually faster than mounted speed, so if you need to get from point A to point B, this is going to be your fastest way to do so. I'd recommend some form of food, augment runes, flasks, and health potions. These are just going to help you kill stuff with ease. You know, more stat equals more damage, and health potions help you get out of sticky situations. And I'd also recommend goblin glider kits for flying across zones as well. Now, moving on to what you're actually doing to level up. So, once you've picked your Covenant ability immediately after selecting the Threads of Fate option in Oribos, by the way, if you don't know which Covenant ability, there's a bunch of Wowhead guides. I would just look at those and pick which one you want based on the information given there. Once you picked your Covenant ability, you now want to travel to each individual zone and pick up the respective quest called Aiding the Insert Zone Covenant name here. Immediately from Oribos, you can just fly to each zone, so just do this back to back and you'll get all 4 of the quests immediately, which are going to be named, for example, Aid Ardenweld, and it's going to have a bar with 0% at the right of your screen. The reason that you're getting these quests is because they give a pretty sizable amount of XP, roughly 1/4 of a level, and this XP amount is actually going to scale with your level. Once you have all of those quests, you can now start grinding. What I found is the absolute fastest way to level is pretty simple, just spamming dungeons. You can get about 1/4 of a level per dungeon, and each dungeon can take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. With a perfect group, you could probably get it in like 7 minutes. I don't know if I've had to run that fast, but that's with like a really, really good group. You get about 5 to 7 minutes. Obviously, the speed at which you do the dungeons can vary greatly depending upon who you're doing it with, so I would definitely recommend grabbing some friends that also want to level and just slam it out with them. Unfortunately, this option isn't particularly great if you're a solo player. However, I would not immediately click off of the video because there is still a lot of information to gain from this, and even if you are a solo player, you can still do this. It's just not as efficient as it would be with a group. But if you're a solo player that only wants to play DPS, your queues are going to be pretty long, but it's still going to be worth it for you to queue for dungeons while you do some of the other stuff that I'm going to talk about here shortly. Otherwise though, for solo tanks and healers, you can get queues pretty much almost instantly, and if you're a good tank player, you can make a huge impact on how slow or fast the dungeon goes. So if you're able to play tank pretty competently, I would definitely recommend just biting the bullet there, swapping to it just while leveling, and then swapping immediately afterwards. And if you are a solo player, don't be discouraged. I'd imagine there's a lot of people that are wanting to level up right now, so you could probably just ask random people to spam it with you, and I'm sure you'd eventually find some decent players to create a consistent group with. Now, going back to the aiding the blank quest, you get roughly 3% progress towards these quests with each dungeon you complete in that respective zone. So, if I were to do Miss of Tierna Scythe, which is an Ardenweald dungeon, I would get 3% progress towards the Aid Ardenweald quest. So, even if you were to spam dungeons all the way to level 59, it's unlikely that you completely finish each quest to be able to turn them in and instantly ding to level 60. So, what I did was dungeons all the way up until level 56.5, and then I started doing world quests and objectives in each zone until I finished their 8 quests. I pretty much did this because grinding dungeons for like 2.5 hours was getting really, really boring, and I also just wanted to see how much XP the bonus objectives and doing the quest gave me. I'm not entirely sure what the perfectly efficient way to level is, if it's just actually faster to by only doing dungeons and ignoring the 8 quests, I'm not sure, or if it's a combination of doing both, but after doing dungeons for 3 hours straight, it gets pretty boring, right? So it's pretty nice to break up the monotony with doing some world quests, and you can even do the world quests with friends. And honestly, I'd guess that most people won't be able to have a steady group for an entire 5 to 6 hours straight. So my official recommendation is going to be to grind dungeons until about 56 or 57. You could even take breaks in between and then go back to dungeon grinding. But once you do that, take a break from doing dungeons and then just do world quests and objectives in each of the zones to finish off the 8 quests. The world quests and objectives on their own are actually pretty decently quick in terms of XP per hour, as it's fairly common for the world quests and bonus objectives to just be right on top of each other, so you can easily complete both of them at the same time. And sometimes you can even get a side quest on top of those, so 3 birds with 1 stone, really good XP when that happens. And just so you guys know, for each bonus objective and world quest, that's going to give you 10% progress towards the 8 quests, and each side quest is going to give you 3%. So you could very easily get about 23% in like 15 minutes if you were pretty fast. If you plan on doing the quests and objectives, I'd highly recommend to opening up the map and flying to areas where you see a lot of the objectives and world quests kind of stacked on top of each other so that you can easily knock out 2 at once. It's also worth noting that the XP that you get for killing the mobs is pretty irrelevant, and like 95% of the XP is actually going to come from the bonus objectives themselves. So grouping up with people is not at all going to put you at a disadvantage. It's actually going to make the bonus objectives and the world quests way faster than doing them solo, since pretty much all of the world quests are to just kill stuff and fill the bar, and that's just going to be way faster with a group. I did all of my world quest solo, and I was still able to level fairly quickly, so you should be able to as well, but if you're in a group, you'll just fly through those. Anyways, that about wraps it up for the video. Honestly, it's not all that complicated. As long as you collect all the 8 quests and you just grind dungeons efficiently / do world quests and bonus objectives, leveling alts is pretty quick. It does get rather boring, so I understand if you don't want to do this and you want to do the main campaign, but honestly, I think it's worth it because this is just going to be a huge time save, and doing the main campaign isn't particularly fun either. Again, if you're discouraged about doing group dungeoning because you don't have the perfect group, don't be. I didn't even have like a complete god comp while doing dungeons. We weren't perfectly efficient at all. We had healers that were inting, not healing us. We had a ton of hiccups.
Keep going.
I didn't pull this. I know I didn't pull this. There's gonna be more.
We're killing this fucking mushroom.
Wait, it's dead.
Oh, we got it.
Sick. What the fuck?
What the
What
fuck?
is this? Where did you find this mob?
What
Did you do?
No fucking way.
What the fuck
Death
did
strike,
you do?
even with all that stuff, I still leveled pretty quickly. Anyways, I hope this video helped, and if it did, please make sure to drop a like, subscribe for videos similar to this one, and I'm probably going to make a video on what to do after hitting level 60, what the most efficient way to get all your stuff done is, what stuff you actually care about, what Stygia means, what all that stuff means. A lot of people don't fully understand that, so I think a video on that would be pretty nice. So if you're interested in that, please let me know down in the comments, and make sure to stay tuned for it. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.